between Europe and Asia, economic dialogue, humanitarian missions, multi-vector operating and the search for compromises in the world arena. How else does Kazakhstan participate in the development of the modern world? For more details, watch the program Kazakhstan International Vectors. Today you will find out what for do school children monitor water, what does the Ombudsman for Children's Rights do, and what expertise Israel shares with Kazakhstan.
In ancient times, the child was considered to be in the full power of adults, and this was taken for granted. For example, in the Roman Empire, the power of the father was absolute. In Russia, parents could apply to public authorities to punish their children. However, practically in all countries of the world, in different historical periods, parents were obliged to educate children and provide them with necessary care. Today, the safety of children in the world is ensured by a number of international agreements and state laws. The main organization for the protection of children's rights has even identified the top 10 countries where the happiest children live. The Netherlands is the leader of the rating. The level of healthcare, the education system, the protection of the rights of mothers and children, and the level of financial well-being were among the main criteria.
This is the Specialized Lyceum School number 92 in Almaty. Here pupils are getting interest not only in basic subjects. In addition to academic knowledge, local teachers develop research skills in their wards, teach them to come up with new projects and help to implement them. The school director Yarulan Zhianbayev says that in the modern world, when new goals and challenges to young people appear daily, one must be ready for them from the school's bench. With this goal in mind, from the beginning of this year he launched a special project for school children to monitor water. In this sense, our lyceum takes big steps. By a happy chance, representatives of the Asia Auto Risk company got interested in the work of our students. They've noted that our children do such things and carry out such studies which are usually being carried out by students, for example studying hydrology at the Institute of the city of Kokshetau. The donors liked the project of pupils of the Lyceum School number 92 that much that they have allocated 3.5 million tenge for the creation of a laboratory to study properties of water. This is the laboratory that was built for us by the Asia Auto Risk company. In the beginning, when we were just taking the first steps to study water, our pupils were able to recognize only one component of the composition of the water. Further developing their skills and gaining new knowledge, they will be able to work with 19 components as researchers do in a real professional laboratory. The project involves 9 school children who are divided into groups. The first group is called Geographers. Under the guidance of the teacher of geography, the guys study the topography of the springs near the city of Almaty and take the water from those springs for the research. Our main task is to designate the geographical location of the water springs. All this work is done using a special device called Garmin. It connects to GLONASS satellite and transmits data to us. Due to this, we can find out the exact coordinates, latitude and longitude, the height at which our water sources are located. We usually begin by conducting a survey among local residents in order to find out how they actually use water from a particular spring. Then we take samples from these springs and then we give them to our chemists for a study. The second group is a team of chemists. They work directly in the laboratory investigating the chemical composition of water samples. Now from this flask we pour a sample of water in the amount of 25 milliliters. Then we add an indicator to this water in the amount of 1 microgram of potassium 2-chromo-4. Here, as we can see, after adding the indicator, the color has changed to reddish yellow, so we see how much chloride is actually in the water. The amount of argentum-3 spent equals the amount of chloride in the water. More specifically, we detected 1.5 milliliters of chloride. This corresponds to the state standard. All the information received, as well as the conclusions of the team of chemists, are being subsequently published on a special website. It was developed by the information scientists. In general, our site is, in a sense, the Wikipedia of all water sources in the Almaty region. This means that through our website, anyone can see the geographical location of clean water springs and the chemical composition of water from these springs. In addition, you can get interesting information about the properties of water in general. You can also learn a lot of interesting information about the sources of water on the planet. To date, almost 17.5 million people live in Kazakhstan. 1/3 of them are children under the age of 17. Rights of the family and child in the Republic are fixed at the constitutional level.
More than 45 legal acts regulating the rights and guarantees of children and adolescents have been adopted in Kazakhstan. The main are the decrees of the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan on the state program Health of the People, on the state program Education, the President's decree on the concept of the state youth policy of the Republic of Kazakhstan, and the laws of the Republic of Kazakhstan on marriage and the family, on education, and some others.
In order to create an effective mechanism for protecting the rights of the child, many countries set up special bodies for the protection of children's rights. These are the institutions of the Ombudsman for the Rights of the Child. They successfully function in Sweden, France, Italy, Russia, the Baltic countries, and others.
Такая структура была создана указом.
Such a structure was created by the decree of the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Mr. Nursultan Nazarbayev. An experienced, very knowledgeable, reputable expert, member of the parliament, Ms. Jagipa Baliyeva, was appointed. We are actively working with the Office of the Ombudsman for Children's Rights on a wide range of issues related to the protection of children's rights. 13 working groups were created in each area related to the provision and protection of children's rights. Now 2 more directions have been added, so now we are working in 15 areas. The international experts call this step an important milestone in the history of ensuring human rights in the country. All its activities are built in accordance with the international obligations of the Republic of Kazakhstan on ratified UN conventions and with a reference to world practices of the work of such institutions. And just recently there was such a teleconference with participation of all regions of the Republic of Kazakhstan. It was organized jointly by the Ombudsman for Children and the United Nations Children's Fund, with the support of a number of partners, including the European Union. This conference addressed a number of issues. An important one was the provision of work to protect the rights of children and ethical principles on the basis of which the work of journalists should be built in covering the issues that concern children. They have to ensure that children do not become additionally victims of not only violence or ill treatment, but also victims of inadequate reflection of their situation in the media. For many years, Kazakhstan has been a member of the United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF. Its activities are aimed at implementing certain projects related to the improvement of the situation of children, including the reduction of child and maternal mortality, prevention of violence against children, and the development of juvenile justice. One of our tasks here in Kazakhstan is probably to ensure that the best international practices and the most advanced effective technologies are being introduced in the Republic. On the other hand, there are a lot of interesting initiatives, a lot of interesting improvements that have been created here, together with partners who represent the interests of other countries. Representatives of UNICEF in Kazakhstan are now working in the format of a new program adopted for 2016-2020. Within its framework, the partners decide what activities can be performed by the regional governments and non-governmental organizations themselves.
что особую значимость приобретает
The information communications, the transfer of information, the transfer of knowledge about effective technologies to ensure the protection of children's rights are gaining their importance. Particular attention is paid to information that helps parents to pay more attention to the child and is responsible for health, education and development of children. In this regard, we have such an interesting initiative which is now under implementation. This is an initiative for responsible parenting, so that in general parents not only bear responsibility, but also know how they can ensure the all-round development of their child.
развитие своего ребенка.
A new direction of cooperation of UNICEF with the government of Kazakhstan was a program to prevent teenage suicide. Work in this direction is conducted in cooperation with the world's leading scientists.
Сейчас мы работаем совместно с
Now
партнерами.
we work together with partners, but again this is probably more the responsibility of the government and specialists who are doing it specifically in Kazakhstan to ensure that this system is properly developed on a national scale. It is one of the most important directions, and here very good work is underway to implement a roadmap for the prevention of violence against children, against adolescents and also against women. Here we actively cooperate with the Office of Prosecutor General and the Ministry of Internal Affairs.
Министерство внутренних дел.
Representatives of UNICEF in Kazakhstan say that independence of local partners, for example, non-governmental organizations, plays an important role. In this connection, daily advisory work is carried out. One of them is the creation of youth resource centers.
То есть именно вот повышение как бы
This is the increase of activity, of youth activity in particular, not only in the conduct of flash mobs and some other social activities, but in such a practical, serious approach to solving issues directly concerning education, employment and health of youth. This is at first the implementation of youth policy in which we, of course, are taking our active participation.
активном участии.
Kazakhstan has created a huge potential for protecting the rights of children, and the active participation of the Republic in the work of the UN Security Council will attract additional attention to the country's initiatives on the international arena. Probably it is necessary to speak here not only about the interests of the children of Kazakhstan, but also about the global situation, about children in emergency situations, about children in conditions of armed conflicts, about children in conditions of various civil clashes. It seems that this topic has global significance. It has a certain significance in the format of international security. Of course, it would probably be significant if, through Kazakhstan, we could jointly draw the attention of the UN Security Council to the situation of those children I have just mentioned. In 1989, the UN General Assembly adopted the Convention on the Rights of the Child. This was an important event. For the first time, states recognized children as full-fledged holders of the entire set of human rights and recognized that children are an object of special protection.
The Convention on the Rights of the Child is an international legal instrument that defines the rights of children in state signatories. It consists of 54 articles detailing the individual rights of persons between the ages from birth to 18 to fully develop their abilities in conditions free from hunger and need, cruelty, exploitation and other forms of abuse.
The Convention pays special attention to the right of children to receive education. It must be accessible and free, and all participating countries must comply with this obligation. For example, in Kazakhstan, a focus is set towards preschool education. In the state program, the goal is to provide a 100% preschool education of children from 3 to 6 years.
In 2016, 825 preschool institutions for 77,000 children were opened in Kazakhstan. Among them, there are 600 private kindergartens. Due to this, provision of children from 3 to 6 years in kindergartens has grown by 2% and now equals to 85%.
The upbringing makes an integral part of education. This concept includes the development of the personality, talents, mental and physical abilities of a child and the education of respect for others, and much more. And here the main responsibility lies on the parents, who, according to modern psychologists, must constantly develop themselves together with their children.
Some parents, wishing to succumb to fashion trends, send their child to some very good specific training or advanced college. But are you ready to follow this training with your child? That is the question. After that, the child gets matured. He or she has already gained some leadership qualities. And when parents take their children to some training centers with the desire that they would become very active, creative, become the leader, they have to be ready to live with that leader. But are they ready to listen to his or her opinion, which will necessarily appear?
World experts agree that childhood is a special stage in a person's life, and the task of any state is to ensure full compliance with the requirements of the Convention as the first officially approved international instrument regulating the relationship between the worlds of adults and children. However, in each country, the legislation in the field of children's rights may differ.
The law of the Republic of Moldova has applied a bold norm which sounds like the duty of parents to give birth to a healthy child. This means a mandatory medical examination for the detection of diseases and genetic disorders introduced for persons entering into marriage.
The so-called parent groups have recently gained popularity in Israel. Social workers, teachers, psychologists, medical workers, and of course the parents themselves take part in them. They exchange experience and receive the necessary recommendations for establishing friendly relations with children and adolescents.
Since May, under this Israeli project, we have conducted such parental groups in Almaty. There are about 300 parents already included, and they have brought very good feedback, noticing the warming of the relationship between parents and children. Not to mention the transformation of the educators themselves, that is, teachers, psychologists and so on, who also participate in this project.
People in Europe are seriously approaching the protection of children's rights. For example, in Germany, one of the rules, for violation of which German parents can be punished, prohibits beating and defending children. Another interesting point, German experts believe that watching TV is very harmful for children. Therefore, many parents try not to let the kids to the TV screens as long as possible, despite the fact that German television actually has special channels for children. Despite the fact that the summer holidays are in full swing, the children from the Lyceum School number 92 have lots of work to do. Under the strict guidance of the teacher of chemistry, they will master new devices. This spectrum is called a photometer. During the summer holidays, pupils will learn how to work with these devices. Most importantly, here we identify the optical density. For this, you need to draw a curve to find out the concentration and numbers of ions in the water. Of course, the guys have far-reaching plans. After all, they need not just continue their project, but also expand research opportunities. 2 to 3 months ago, we began to investigate the water composition in Almaty water springs. After our summer research is over, we plan to hold a press conference. We want to show the results of our research to the public and share information. Where the water of good quality is, whether it is useful for a person or not, and some other information. Also, next year we plan to organize the first scientific conference devoted to the ecology of water. Ensuring the safety of children today is an important component of the national policies of many states. However, it is not enough to provide only the legal framework. And when we think what can be done for children, perhaps first of all, it is necessary to talk about the responsibility of parents. This is probably the first line of defense of the rights of the child.
It is important to keep an ear to the ground, but not in terms of control and pressure, but in terms of building a warm, trustful relationship.
Every child in the world has the right to life and health protection, right to receive education and profession, to the inviolability of the person, protection from physical and psychological violence, to living in the family, housing and recreation, and the right to protect honor and dignity.